joined by the most important person at the event this week in Budapest, by Ralph Kaiser, who's the president and CEO of our hosts of UATP. So thanks for hosting the event, Ralph. We're talking at the moment, the end of the first day. So hence the noise behind us. People are enjoying a few drinks in a sponsored networking session behind us. Just give us your thoughts on how today's gone. What are some of the key themes that came out of the discussions?
Yeah, so we put this on. We don't do conferences to make money. We do it to bring thought leaders together in this sort of a very nice boutique type environment to really understand what's driving decisions in the airline industry and the broader travel industry, and also in fintech. So we're a fintech company that caters to airlines and travel companies. And so this is a great event for us to listen and learn. And we want to know what customers want. We're not in the business of building things and hoping people will use it. We want to hear what are the pain points. We want to address those and take out friction and make, we want everybody to win.
Yeah. Okay. So this morning, at the very start, there was a few discussions about what the challenges are. There was some data about where the airline industry is in terms of its growth and recovery from COVID and what the prospects are. I'm trying to look to the future. We don't want to look back anymore, as we said a few times. And there was a few, maybe tongue in cheek, but a few gags yourselves at the fore about some things that are going on. Maybe we'll talk about your home country. But actually, in a later session, it was mentioned that the uncertainty around the politics that's going on at the minute, and of course, what happens in America has impacts way beyond just America. It's such a
they always say when America sneezes, everyone else catches a cold. Right?
Yeah, and so there is a lot going on there. I mean, it's really hard to analyze. It's happening almost in real time, and
it is.
Nobody can keep up. That's the whole point of it, I think.
I go to bed every night, and the first thing I do is to check what happened while I was asleep.
What happened last night?
What happened while I was asleep? And I would say this: it's a bit of a disruptive environment, and you don't usually think of governments as being the innovators or the disruption. And of course, when you create uncertainty, markets don't like that.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Investors don't like it. Most businesses don't like uncertainty. But what I think is there's being a bit of a reset on global economics, commercial items, and even foreign policy that seemingly, I guess the U.S. population voted for.
Yeah.
And it's short-lived. I think there's a little pain people are going through. But to be honest, we're 60 days into a new administration. So there's a lot of time here for this to get sorted out. And you have to take a medium to longer term view right now on what's happening. And I think even for airlines, that's the case.
You've seen, because of the threat of sanctions, etc. You've seen a stock market in the past that happen. That's a natural reaction to, business being disrupted or even prevented. So that you expect that, and that's clearly going to have a knock-on effect to the aviation industry, particularly in certain markets. And that was mentioned earlier. And there's a worry about that. And then, like you said, uncertainty is never a good thing for business. Businesses in markets like certainty. But longer term, you don't get the impression this is a president or a political ideology, if there is one, that is anti-business. I mean, he's very famously a businessman, and it'd be very hard to. It's very hard to think that his legacy would be, I want to disrupt and prevent people flying or stop people flying.
Yeah.
He was the drill baby drill, so why not fly baby fly? So maybe underlying that, is there a sense that whatever happens, this period will be pro-business at least. I mean, you get that sense, and that give you some.
It's going to be 100% pro-business. I think that again, there's maybe some short-term disruption, but we're in the second Trump administration. We had a 4-year hiatus between, and that was disruptive too, because it was a whipsaw back to more of a heavier regulatory environment, much more focus on environmental issues and green projects. And that's why today the airlines were talking about synthetic fuel and how maybe no one's going to hit their targets now. Well, I think part of it was it artificially pushed down on airlines, or were they just virtue signaling that, we're going to get greener, when really it's hard enough to make money. And if you don't have the technology and the fuel costs of synthetic fuel is not there, it's really hard for an airline to decide to pay more for fuel, which is already one of their biggest expenses.
Right.
So I think that combination of let's see what happens and also let's do what's best for people and for the carriers.
Yeah.
Again, it's a short term, I think, of uncertainty, but I think this long-term people believe in the outcome to be better than where it was.
Yeah. There's always, often, and it was said, I think, I mentioned a few times, that burden of regulation, and when you're in an industry, actually, not just in airlines, but in payments, where regulation is, and often for good reason, you can see exactly why, it's a vulnerable industry to fraud and etc. So you need the rules and the guardrails around everything. But it makes it tough, doesn't it? I mean, you've got both the airline regulation and the payments regulation, both coming together. You've got a double set of regulation. I mean, and Europe's very good at regulating.
Yeah. So I mentioned today when I was on stage that UATP, we're a U.S.-based company, but we're global.
Yeah.
Most of our business is not in the U.S., but if we ever go talk to governments, we spend most of our time talking to the EU in Brussels, because they seem to be the hardest regulators. And of course, everyone wants stiff regulation when it comes to airline safety. And in payment, too, you want to prevent people from getting ripped off or fraud. But honestly, when it comes to money, most people are going to be pretty good self-regulators. Now, maybe people take on too much debt, but other than that, people are generally smart with their money. So I believe that we do need guardrails, but we still need to let the market grow and prosper. And in the end, it's better for the consumer to have more choices. And if you have more choices, that means more competition. That should lower costs. If you regulate people out of business, then the strongest will survive and you'll have higher costs. And that's true with airlines too. Yeah. So when, in Germany, there was an airline called Air Berlin that went out of business. And so Lufthansa can continue to maybe be more dominant, have higher fares. I haven't done a study on that, but when you think about new entrants who get squashed out of existence, it doesn't help the end user or it doesn't help prices or competition.
Yeah. There's been a lot of talk all day about the speed of change and so on, and what stifles it. So regulation is potentially one of those things. The other one is, as mentioned, possibly your technology and the legacy technology, your technology provider going quickly enough for you. I guess if you talk to the technology providers, they often blame their customers a little bit. They're saying, well, you don't tell us what you need. Yeah. You don't pay us enough to do things you want to do. So there's always pointing fingers all over the place.
Yeah, but the technology providers tend to be more profitable than airlines.
Okay, so yeah. So just go back to airline economics. I think, again, Willie Walsh is very good on this, and I've seen him speak about the situation in airlines and the airline. Take an aggregate and abroad, some airlines are very profitable. Many aren't, especially the making them for traditional flag carriers. And really, if the airline industry isn't profitable, this sort of stuff you're talking about can't happen. Yeah. Is that who invests in it?
You know what's interesting is before the pandemic in 2019, the airlines were having one of their best years from a profitability standpoint. And now that we're back, I would say back to normal, whatever that is. I don't know if they're all going to be as profitable as they were, even though I think there's more money going through the system. You heard this morning that people need airplanes. And what's going to happen once the airplane demand reaches where it needs to be, then they're going to need pilots, right? And then there's always a tendency of airlines to put in too much capacity, then you'll depress fares, and then you'll be going through that vicious cycle where you bring in all the new aircraft because you're making a lot of money, and then you deflate your own revenue because you put in too much capacity, and you start to cycle over again.
Yeah. Well, one thing the airline industry on the whole isn't suffering from is overcapacity.
Yeah.
Not enough aircraft not coming off the production line quickly enough. The old ones are staying in the air, which means they need more maintenance repair.
And there's no capacity.
There's no capacity there as well. They're less efficient. There's a bit of a sort of almost the perfect storm underneath the airline industry, which customers and most people don't see, but they're battling this with. And again, they've got people problems at the engineering level. There's not just the pilots. There's not enough those guys around. So there are issues completely throughout the industry, and it's to do with the fact there's a good demand, actually. There's a good demand from the consumer side.
Yeah.
It's a supply side problem.
When you stand back and just look at the airline industry, you just have to wonder, how do they ever make money with all the cost of aircraft and staff and fuel?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and that, thank wonderful. Fuel is stable at the minute, but again, you can turn on a dime now because something happens and then the fuel price spikes.
But I've seen, at least anecdotally in America, I've seen fuel prices going down, gasoline, petrol.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's not really a result of more oil yet, but I think the vision is we're going to be energy self-sufficient, and hopefully that will have some positive effects for airlines globally if there's more oil being pumped. And I know there are environmental issues, but airlines themselves are responsible for less than 5% of carbon, I think, in the world. Right. So there's bigger fish to fry than the airline. We're just an easy target.
Yeah, we're very visible.
Yeah, that's right.
Things fly, saying,
everyone loves to travel, I see.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yes. That's gone really quick, so time is kind of up. But just a final thought on the day to day. We've got a half a day tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's always the buzz means there's positivity. I think we haven't got a depressed industry.
Right.
People are looking to the future. They want to think about what's coming up. Do you feel that, and do you think that means
I do like
of change?
Yeah, I do like the fact that in the room today people were talking about let's stop looking back and comparing to 2019. Let's look forward and dropping some of the morbid statistics. I know if there's any silver lining from the pandemic, for us at least, it was we looked inside and we innovated a lot, and we've come out of COVID with 3 patents, and that we're trying to meet the market on what people need and want.
Yeah.
And so that has set us up really well for the future. And I think a lot of airlines are in the same place. We have a lot of great companies here that are sponsoring the event who are not airlines, but work with airlines and like we do. So I'm very bullish on the future. I can't control what I can't control, whether it's regulatory bodies or viruses or earthquakes, wars. We didn't even talk about that today. It's amazing what there are. Like,
it was mentioned in passing because of the airspace issues for Finnair.
I did talk because Finnair lost their entire competitive advantage when Russian airspace. They were the quickest way to Asia from Europe. Yeah, and then now they have to fly the long route like everyone else. So, but it's amazing that's almost like we take it for granted. Things like wars.
Yeah. Fun book. You said you started up by calling yourself a fintech. With some innovative companies. You just come out to a panel on innovation.
Yeah.
You can't talk about innovation now without AI. These tech bubbles they come along. There's a lot of hype and then it disappears. We just talked blockchain for quite a long time. Blockchain talked about for a long time.
Blockchain was the biggest.
Because it was the last big one.
Yeah.
So, but what's the reality here? Blockchain's still there. It's still got a role to play. It may even have bigger roles in the future as people really understand the use cases of it. AI is probably similar, isn't it? Yeah. We're in this huge bubble about it, but it's not overhyped. It's happening, isn't it?
So we work with blockchain providers in travel for airline booking and end-to-end bookings, and we're a payment vehicle within some blockchain. There's a company called BlockSky that we work with.
Yep.
We're the payment vehicle there. I would say that I don't think AI is so much of a bubble as I don't know if people fully understand. So I've told people at UATP, AI is not going to replace your job. No one's going to lose their job to AI, but you're going to become more efficient, and we're going to do more with less, as every company needs to do, because we're going to use AI and apply it to where it makes sense in development to take care of routine tasks where we can get really smart developers to build new things instead of maintaining the status quo. So I do think there's a good chance that AI does help everybody, but I don't think machines are going to take over. I don't know about you, but I don't want to fly in an airplane run by an AI bot.
No, or never come to an event like this where you can be with people again. I think people still want to be with people and in offices as well.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Look, Ralph, thanks very much for that, and thanks very much for the hosting of the event this week.
I'm happy that you're here, and we appreciate your participation. And we'll doing this again next year.
Fantastic. We'll be there. Thanks very much. Cheers. Thank you.
Okay, so we're joined on ABNcast now by Chris Phillips, who's the Chief Commercial Officer at ATPCO. Yes. That's how you say it. And it's still the first day at the UATP Airline Distribution Conference or Summit in Hungary, in Budapest. We've heard this morning quite a lot about the changes that we are seeing. We've heard a lot about NDC. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. So, but before we do, just briefly tell us what ATPCO does and what role it plays in the industry?
Sure. ATPCO is the airline-owned industry data company, primarily responsible for collecting and distributing fare data for the industry.
Yeah. There's lots of terms in the industry, but what we always hear with ATPCO is your fare filing. What does that mean?
That's our foundation.
If I'm not an airline person, explain what fare filing is.
Sure.
To someone who hasn't got a clue.
Sure. We've got about 450 member airlines. Every day, every hour, they want to make changes to their fare strategies.
Yeah.
They file the information through us. We standardize and normalize it, redistribute it to the world within the hour, so consumers around the world can shop for the best and latest fares available from the airlines.
So you use the word standardize there, which is a key thing in all data. You can't standardize data, you can't share it, and you don't have an industry essentially, people are working on their own. NDC, which is new distribution capability, anyone in the airline industry knows that term probably too much. It's been around now for, God knows, 15 years, I think. Discussion this morning centered on how we are in terms of adopting it and the speed of adoption. And the shorthand for NDC is that it's a new standard, new data standard. But then again, you're the old data standard and you're still here. So explain why NDC hasn't proved to be sort of the new data standard, and
Sure.
that took all the old stuff out, and you're still here doing what you do.
It might have been more, it's a new distribution standard than a data standard.
Okay.
The airlines really needed a new way to distribute their content in the market so they could offer the right price to the right customer at the right time.
Yeah.
The old world didn't necessarily allow that, so NDC's been a huge enabler. We're finally reaching some critical mass, which has taken longer than we wanted, but we're getting there. But at the launch of NDC, many people thought that the world that ATPCO lived in and supported would go away.
Right.
The world of fare filing would disappear. In actuality, it's been the opposite.
Yeah.
ATPCO has become a huge supporter of airlines distributing NDC content. Approximately 90% of the NDC offers that are created actually get generated from content that they file with ATPCO to use as a baseline.
Yeah.
So we've become very instrumental in providing the atomic level data that they need to go and create these new offers.
Okay. So why didn't things turn out as you said? When the first thinking around NDC was, like you say, it would change and the old world would go away. Why has that not happened?
A lot of theories on that. My perspective is that we knew what we wanted to change in terms of what content we distributed to the marketplace. At the time, we didn't know how it was going to work.
Yeah.
A lot of ideas. The idea was you wouldn't file fares anymore. You'd create offers on the fly. What we have found in reality is to do that at scale and speed with the kind of the global distribution networks of the industry, you've got to have some standards underlying it with some data points to help build those unique offers. And ATPCO has been instrumental in really changing how we support the airlines to do that. So we've become a huge enabler.
Okay.
For the new world.
Like I said, this change has been taking place over 15 decade and a half, and it's what I think we were saying earlier. 20% is NDC. That's a rough figure.
Yeah.
And that's an average. So, as they said, many OTAs are probably 80% because they've adopted it. But overall, as an industry average, it's around 20%. So it's still way bigger than it was. It's still we're a fifth of the way there. Is there a moment when we'll get to 100%? Is that the road we're on? There was an agreement, and there was definitely an agreement that the train is on the tracks, and it's not going to stop now. So I get the feeling that people have sort of accepted this, but it's all about the speed now, isn't it? The speed of adoption and the speed of change.
It is about speed. I think we're a long way off from 100%, unfortunately, and it's not for lack of desire to get there.
Yeah.
The NDC journey is very complicated. It's very expensive. So the bigger airlines with more capitalization are going to be able to work through that. But there are a couple hundred airlines that don't have the scale or the capital to go through that journey. So they're likely going to live in the old world for much longer.
Yeah.
But I'd also say that the gap between legacy, fare distribution, and NDC has closed quite a bit. The world of having 26 buckets to distribute your prices, it no longer exists. There's new solutions out there that ATPCO has enabled, like dual RBD, that offers hundreds of fare buckets now to let airlines better segment their fare offerings and get close to the ideal of NDC without quite putting the investment in. So those airlines will take a little bit longer. but they're also a very small percentage.
Yeah. I guess what happens or tends to happen is the first movers take all the cost, learn all the lessons, get the scars on their back, and the guys behind come along and go, you've laid the road, thanks very much. And maybe some third-party tech will come along and be enablers as well. So that tends to be how it works, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That has played out in this instance as
well. And so what that requires is it requires to be pioneers. And there are some airlines, I think we saw some on stage earlier, the Finairs of this world are not only are they pioneers, they're prepared to be upfront and say that. So
yes.
It's important. How are they doing, do you think? Are they pulling the industry with them?
I think they are. They've the airlines out there like the Lufthansas, the BAs, Air France, KLM in Europe, United and American in the Americas really kind of were the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
They've helped solve a lot of the issues. Everybody's learning how to do it better. It's going to make adoption cheaper and simpler as we go down the line, but it does take those early adopters to help solve some of the big problems that a small carrier is never going to figure out.
What about in the sort of non-traditional airline space, so the LCC and the ultra LCCs who never had the original legacy tech holding them back? They've come into a market sort of fresh. You're going to have Riyadh Air coming up. I mean, they're talking about being the first ever truly digital airline.
True.
Are they sort of retrofitting into the old system because there are things they need to have?
Yes, we work with all of them on this journey. We've been with Riyadh Air from day one, helping them think about how to solve their problems. But in the LCC space, some of this is catch-up. You've got airlines like a Ryanair or an EasyJet. They won't call it NDC, but they've essentially operated their own dynamic offer engines from day one, or at least for the last decade or so. So they're already actually doing the things a lot of airlines want to catch up to because they started there. Yeah,
it's interesting. In the UK, EasyJet will be 30 years old this year, so it's
stunning.
It's an interesting. Well, it's a year. Really, the year dot was 30 years ago when low-cost flying started in probably you'd say Europe, and it happens to be the UK with the first flight from Luton to Edinburgh. And look what's changed since. But you see them still continuing to evolve, and now they're becoming much more of a tour operator. It's essentially an ancillary addition, and they're telling a holiday now, and they're doing a great job of that. And you can see a lot of the airlines are going, that's the way to make more money. And so, again, how do you play in that new area where these airlines are becoming far more full service, despite retaining the LCC ethos as well?
Yes, our core is still about providing the content and the systems and standards to help the airlines distribute their fares. So whether it's a package or a base fare, that data to establish the airfare will still be a role we'll play for anybody in the industry.
Yeah. So we're nearly up. Time's nearly up, but we've got a day and a half here in Budapest this week, talking about everything to do with payments and all that stuff. What is ATPCO? What do you get out of being here? A lot of people you already know. You'll see them many on the circuit, I'm sure. There'll be new faces here. But what for you do you get out of being face to face in a show like this?
Yeah, the big insights that we're getting are the NDC discussions. Many partners are here. We get to catch up face to face and talk about how we can further support their journeys. There's a lot of airlines here who are just learning, getting started, and we're helping them understand how they make that transition from their legacy fare filing into the NDC world, and how we can help simplify it for them. So we can meet a lot of great airlines and help accelerate their thinking in an event like this.
Well, I was going to say, it's acceleration, isn't it? Maybe these events do help that speed of change. Do you think it inspires people to go away and say, right, let's get on with this now?
It absolutely does.
Yeah,
a lot of energy around the topics, the people that take back and advance their thinking.
Yeah, good. Look, Chris, thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Okay,
cheers.
The next delegate at the UATP Airline Distribution conference to join us on ABNcast is Jacqueline Ulrich, who is from Nuvei, as your lanyard
says.
Quite rightly says. And so thanks for joining us firstly on ABNcast. Hope you're enjoying the show so far.
I'm enjoying it very much. It's it feels a little bit like coming and see the family.
Yes, it seems like you get that feeling.
Yes.
It's a family of payments experts.
Yes.
You see each other quite regularly.
Yes,
so it's always good to see each other again, isn't it?
This is more intimate.
Yeah. Well, look, firstly, tell us what you do at Nuvei, and then you can talk about a bit about Nuvei's journey.
Fantastic.
Before we started, Nuvei's journey has been interesting since about 21. So, what do you do there? What's your job?
So I lead the travel product strategy and partnerships.
Okay.
So I sit like between commercial and product
Yep.
to design what it is that we need to be doing in order to have the best offering in the market.
Okay, so you've been adapting Nuvei to the travel industry for what, since 21, did you say?
Yep. In mid 2021.
Yeah.
And at that time, we were working only direct sales with 2 airlines at the time.
Okay, good. That's good.
And fast forward to today, and we're now onboarding our 20th airline.
Okay.
And I mean, we've got some important airlines like Turkish Airlines, TAP, ANA, to name but a few. And we were, at the time, I think 4 people dedicated to travel
Okay.
across the company, kind of thing. And today, I think we're about close to 35.
Yeah.
That is from sales, my department, product development, et cetera, et cetera. So for us, travel has become a key vertical to grow.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And you talk travel, this is an airlines specific thing. Really, it's airlines. Get the airlines.
Well, I mean, no, and we also work with a lot of OTAs as well.
Yeah.
And beginning to work more and more with hospitality as we roll out more POS and omnichannel across the globe. But yeah, I mean, I'd say that a lot of the product development has been done for airlines because it's rather specific.
Okay, no. So before we started, you described Nuvei as a full service provider in payments.
We do.
What does that encompass?
So we go all the way from orchestration or gateway,
Yeah.
and then we do the processing of the payments. We're an acquirer, and then everything to reconciliation all the way back.
Okay.
So end to end.
Yeah. So you could come to you. There's lots of different players here do lots of different niche things. You potentially can do a lot of different. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And we will route it to partners as well. So you don't have to do everything with us.
Yeah.
You can do everything with fun.
What's coming up? Something's coming up. So
Yeah, so we've been working extensively, obviously, these last years on should I say, our airline portfolio. So right now I'm specifically talking about airlines. So hospitality is something that I'll discuss at another moment. But we are now also, have orchestration capabilities. So we're, should I say, expanding those to have more of the airline acquirers as well via our gateway.
Yeah.
We've also been working on connections to all of the main platforms, so whether that be Amadeus, Sabre, Hit, Navigator, etc. And also all the other orchestration platforms that we work with.
Yeah.
And we do BSP processing with our partner, UATP. But now we're also going into following the customer when he's in his journey. So that means that payments in the airport, like at the check-in desk, in-flight payments, any frequent flyer loyalty programs, for example.
Yeah.
But actually, something that has come up more now in the different events, industry events, is something that actually I'm rather familiar with because we did that in Executive where I used to work some years ago. And that is everything that is back office.
Okay.
So treasury management, reconciliation, trying to, from both to sold to billed, settled, etc. And where is all the money?
Yeah.
Where is it? Did we get paid the right amount?
Yeah.
Have we lost it along the way? And where's it being accounted for in the ERP? So it's like a wheel of sorts, and that's what we're coming out.
And that's increasingly going to be important because I've been to a number of these conferences. They're talking about that full user journey now. So you might get a situation, you will get a situation with the modern airports of payments, transactions happening on in journey. Unplanned, a lounge access, also, and payment with the face or biometrics. So it's great for the consumer and great for the traveler, but really difficult behind the scenes to reconcile the back office.
Yeah, I have to do something for next year, but I guess that biometrics will go in there.
Yeah.
But things like, we have spoken a lot about NDC here.
Yeah.
I think, it may well end up that we go kind of almost straight to one order and start working like the Amazons of the world or that the airline work, which brings its own complexities with the marketplace setup and having to do payouts to different providers. So imagine if you're in one same booking, you're not only buying things from Lufthansa, to give an example, and lounge access, but then you're suddenly throwing in a massage in your stopover airport and things that are unrelated to them, but they have to take the payment, then they have to pay the provider, etc., etc. It's going to be very, very interesting.
Complicated. Yes. You're about to go on stage, I think, in a...
I am introducing innovations in payments.
Okay.
But we're not on it for some reason.
Okay.
But I'm introducing it.
Okay. So innovations then. What was you looking at? You probably mentioned a few already, but where are we looking at? Well, from an outside point of view, What's innovative in payment?
I think it's, I know it's going to sound a little bit bizarre, but there's a lot more transparency. So being able to give all the granular data for our merchants is a key priority before, still a lot of the airlines work on blended rates, for example, in acquiring. We're giving a lot of that breakdown. Obviously, all of the alternative payment methods, you've heard a lot about, between open banking and many of the new geographies, if you will, in certain countries where credit cards are not necessarily the main form of payment.
Yeah.
So you have to keep up and ensure that you've always got, the latest ones. We've got over 700. Undoubtedly, we'll talk to an airline and it's the 701, that they want that we don't yet have, right? But we keep us on our toes.
You do find that now. I mean, I find it myself that an airline will have a form of payment, or not have a form of payment, probably, actually. The airline doesn't like it to have it. When you go to an intermediary, an OTA, and they're offering these more flexible, over 3 installments, or buy now, pay later options. And of course, for quite an expensive purchase, that's really good for the consumer,
And that is, and now we're getting into hospitality, but that is one of the struggles in hospitality, that because they don't have centralized payment strategy like airlines do.
Yeah.
A consumer will try to book in a hotel, but they don't have, because it's property centric, they will not have their own preferred payment methods.
Yeah.
So they end up going to Booking.com, Airbnb to do that, because they do.
They'll pay the commission for that as well.
Exactly. So they lose the direct bookings, which still, I think we mentioned here today that there was one carrier, I think, who had 70% direct bookings, 70.
Yeah.
Most hotels are stuck at 20% since forever.
Yeah.
They have not much.
Very little prospect of that changing.
Yeah.
I mean, competition is a bit more difficult in that sector, but you can see it's still quite low.
Yeah, it is.
So the whole point of this day and a half is to talk about airline distribution, how it's evolved and evolving.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about NDC this morning.
Yes.
There's no doubt in tracking its development or not. Where is it? Where is it? People are kind of bored of talking about it in some ways. To the extent that they're calling it something different. So, let's not talk about NDC because it's kind of changed anyway. What it was. And
I think the problem that actually is actually from the consumer perspective.
Yeah.
That when most of the consumers are still not seeing that big of a difference.
No.
From the onset of NDC, it's been too slow to adopt. So, like I said, I think that really we will end up moving over to a one order potentially, maybe quicker than we do, NDC.
Yeah.
So.
But isn't one ordering is set? Isn't NDC essential to be able to do one order?
But I mean, I think that
people
might speed up and go to one order quicker.
Right.
To have the shopping cart kind of thing on an order basis. Actually, funny enough, going back to what the low-cost carriers did all along.
Yeah.
Which is go on a booking number instead of the tickets. Wow. So I think, everybody seems to be rather optimistic this time. Actually, I feel this year is the first time that I have heard people saying, give numbers, 2.5 years, or, it's the first time.
Timeline, you mean?
Maybe.
We'll see. I don't know, they're talking about 5 or 10 years, and,
Maybe I'll
remembering how long it took to go to e-ticketing, it's like...
I tell you, I worked in Executive, which is one of the IATA's processing centers. And the things that we did was process PIP tickets.
Yeah.
And I left in 2018, I think. We were still processing with some ticket stock from somewhere around the world.
Yeah.
So over 30 years it took.
I think it's an exception. It's going to take time. But I guess the technology that's available today is about... the promise of technology is quicker and more efficient. Now, whether that ever is true, but it's certainly the selling point.
I think there's going to be so many... components that affect downstream revenue counting and all of the systems that it's not as we should have figured that out sooner, I think.
Okay. There was talk about AI a minute ago as well. That's what that panel we just come out of, and how that changes things again. Not because you're going to have these bots now just continually shopping and the impact that has on
your cost
structure, and the costs, and therefore there's need so the aggregator comes back into play again when.
Who could have foreseen that?
Well,
we're deciding about NDC.
Things come full circle.
Yes.
So in some way, everything changed, then nothing changed.
Exactly.
So you're going to have this kind of complicated situation for as long, and actually, as was said, some people like the fact there's fragmentation. So that's the opportunity. I guess it's the opportunity. The reason there's so many people here all in payments is there is fragmentation, there is complication, and then that's where you have your offering. And
I think that. The problem, as I see it, when we were talking about something else this morning, which was the sustainable fuel and how slow it is, I think that with all these investments that are constantly having to be made now with the bots and the AIs and everything, when do we start reflecting those costs into the tickets to the consumer? How's that going to affect, what is the sweet middle that consumers will feel comfortable with? There's a lot of things that they will have to take into account.
Yeah. I think the industry will keep cost the consumer down as much as possible, because that's volume, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, okay, the moment the flights are full,
Here they are.
load factors are high, but once Boeing starts getting aircraft out the factory,
I don't recall having seen a flight lately, and I travel for work. I'm one of those that do so. I haven't seen like a load factor of 30, 40 that I used to see often.
Luton Airport it was packed.
Yeah.
On what? It's not even holidays in the UK.
Well, exactly. It's cheaper than taking a train domestically. So.
Look, Jacqueline, our time is up. I see you've got a broken hand, so good luck with that recovery.
Thanks so much.
And thanks for coming. Thanks for being on ABNcast. Cheers.
Bye-bye.